Heaven's Journey to Life, The Beginning of Death, Day 61. To read this post, it must be understood that we're walking this process and blog, Heaven's Journey to Life, multidimensionally, which means each post covers one dimension, but is interconnected into and as multi-dimensions in our process of walking the point in question of who I am and how this I created and manifested this entire physical existence. Thus suggested to read this blog from day one, as many of the points in previous dimensions, days, and posts are always brought through into the next days and dimensions and posts, as all the dimensions interconnect, as the multidimensionality we've created and manifested as our separation as energy and consciousness from and of inequality and oneness. Thus, if one is faced with this post and have not yet read this blog from day one, suggests that self first start from day one, as otherwise one will have no context of many dimensions that is walked in this post that has been dealt with in detail in previous posts. We're in this post having a look at how exactly the nature and action of blame within and as spite, excuse, and justification manifested within and between the Adam and male and even female singularities, and how initially, when the equal positive energy experience interpretation started diminishing and lessening from within and as their external awareness of themselves, they tried and attempted to move closer and closer and closer together, condensing more and more and more. But the closer and closer and closer they moved together, the more and more the equal positive energy experience interpretation in their external awareness of themselves diminished and lessened to eventually non existing. And then their positive energy experience and neutral energy experience started diminishing in the Adam and male and Eve and female singularity into and as the negative energy experience, where both simultaneously equally moved away from each other into the depths of existence, which again moved their awareness into and as the positive and neutral. But also remember that positive energy experience interpretation that manifested with and as their merging and condensing together, which would lead them to again seek and search for an opportunity to merge and condense with another manifested singularity. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness with and as energy and substance in and from the beginning. Remember, see, realize, and understand how the moment the Adam and male and Eve and female singularities externally became aware of their equal positive energy experience, interpretation, lessening and diminishing, they attempted and tried to move closer and closer and closer together. But what both the Adam and male and Eve and female singularities did not see, realize, and understand is that with existing as a manifested singularity themselves, encircled into a singular manifestation of and as energy, from the negative to the neutral and the positive, that in and as the manifested singularity and bubble formation and structure, it becomes and exists as the ownership and domain of and as the energies that accumulated and are existent within and as them, that they will for the remainder of their existence as energy in and as their manifested singularity and bubble formation and structure exist in separation from substance and existence as a whole, and so in separation from other manifested singularities and bubbles within and as existence. In this bubble and manifested singularity formation and structure as energy, where the extent and size of the manifested singularities themselves was determined by and through the movement of substance in the beginning, where in the beginning one can visualize one large bubble as representing the equality and oneness of and as substance itself within existence, where as this manifested existence of substance here as itself, what started manifesting as it was a movement within, as and from itself, within and as the starting point of, there must be more than here. There must be more than me as here. But instead of the substance and existence of here moving within that question and starting point into and as the depths of itself and exploring, discovering, investigating its existence as itself here, the substance of and as existence manifested an externalized movement of and as itself. Externalized, meaning it moved itself into and as the direction of forward motion, motioning itself forward in the searching and seeking of this more of itself as here. I forgive myself that I did not accept and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance, from the beginning, see, realize, and understand that within and as this movement as motion forward, that moved itself from and of and as here, with the movement of substance itself in its search and experience of and as the more of and as itself, and so within and as that physical movement of substance itself as existence manifested friction and conflict to and towards the rest of its own existence within and as itself. Because instead of realizing, seeing, and understanding the eternity of here within and as itself, it motioned and moved itself as the entirety of the large bubble and substance and existence forward, in and as the forward motion, of and as the entirety of and as itself. Every single instance of friction and conflict that manifested within and as the entirety of itself manifested into and as manifested singularities as smaller bubble formations and structures that would become the manifested singularities that would exist equal to and one with the large bubble in seeking and searching for the more of and as itself that would be and become the positive energy experience. So now one can visualize the large bubble, filling it with tiny little dots as the instances of friction and conflict that the large bubble as substance and existence manifested within and towards itself, because it moved into and as the opposite, the negative of and as its here, within and as existence and substance. Thus, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to, in and as equality and oneness with and as substance and energy from the beginning, see, realize, and understand why and how, from within and as the motion and movement forward, substance and existence manifested the negative friction and conflict to and towards and within itself, because it was motioning in its movement forward into and as the opposite of itself as here, and in that, manifesting its own opposition as friction and conflict as negative energy experience into, unto, and towards itself. And so, the innumerable amounts of manifested singularities that came into existence came into and as existence from and of friction and conflict as negative energy experience, with the very essence and nature of energy itself, because it was created within and as the starting point of and as the search and seeking of and as the more, the substance and existence, large bubble, within and as that starting point of and as searching and seeking for the more of itself, equally as one created and manifested its creation as energy within and as that starting point. And so within and as energy's very existence would always exist to search and seek the more of itself within and as and through the action of motion and movement of friction and conflict as we have walked in and as the existence of and as the manifested singularities thus far. In this, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness with and as energy and substance from and in the beginning, remember, see, realize, and understand that every instance of friction and conflict that the large bubble as substance and existence manifested into and towards itself, that instance, with the extent and velocity of the motion and movement forward, would determine the size of the structure and formation and manifestation of and as the manifested singularities that would emerge from and of every instance of and as friction and conflict within and as and from the substance and existence as the large bubble. Because within and as that moment of the instance of friction and conflict within and as substance's movement and motion, substance itself moved within and as a particular specific velocity and force that would equally as one manifest the extent of vibration and frequency of and as the energy that would manifest. Thus, each manifested singularity's formation and structure as the smaller bubble size was determined and dependent on the friction and conflict instance, velocity, and extent of substance and existence's motion and movement forward, and would remain within and as that size of structure and formation as manifested singularity for the remainder of their existence, enclosed into and as a bubble, where the very bubble and singularity manifestation itself expose the reach and extent of its influence as energy unto itself, only within and as its manifested singularity existence. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to, in and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance, from and in the beginning. Remember, see, realize, and understand how, with the starting point manifestation of each manifested singularity existing as the velocity and extent of the movement and motion of substance that would determine its size, manifestation, and structure of and as each manifested singularity within and according to the vibration and frequency that would manifest, equal to and one with the movement and motion of substance and existence, that each manifested singularity became a separate bubble manifestation within itself, consisting of and existing as the negative to the neutral and to the positive energy experience as energy awareness, searching for and seeking for its moreness as the positive energy experience as the optimum evolutionary experience of and as energy itself. In this, because the manifested singularities was contained within and as their energy existence, in and as their individualized and singular bubbles, searching and seeking for its own survival and moreness, the containment, the surrounding circular formation consisted of and existed as the friction and conflict relationship of the bubble and manifested singularity to and towards substance and existence. Thus, with every bubble and manifested singularity outer lining consisting of and existing as the friction and conflict relationship to and towards existence and substance, consuming substance from the external existence of substance, and so also from the internal containment and amount of substance. Therefore, substance itself separated itself into manifested singularities, and also the external space between the manifested singularities. So that, for example, as the atom and male and even female singularities tried to move closer and closer to each other, their molecules into infinity, condensed within and as the one point in position and location within existence, started competing for space, the space of and as substance between them and each other to consume, to transform into energy. And because the space lessened and diminished between them, where they did not have the freedom and space to move within the depths of existence and substance, but was forcefully stuck and condensed within and as that one space point and position within existence, the more the molecules into infinity attempted and tried to move themselves within and as friction and conflict from and of their external lining and structure, the more and more they consumed the substance within their manifestations and the substance within the space between them, consuming to the point where the substance in the space between them and the substance within them lessened and diminished, lessening and diminishing the substance between them and the substance within and as their molecules, to the point where no more substance remained within their molecules and within the space between them. And the moment no more substance remained in the space between them, and no more substance remained within their molecules, they connected in the without of themselves as energy, equally in and as the same moment. They became only energy within themselves. And the moment this happened, where both molecules only existed as energy, with no substance in their molecules and no substance in the space between them to continue consuming, the energies started inverting it into itself, consuming itself to survive and exist, until eventually it consumes itself, each other, completely, and cease to exist. The moment energy ceased to exist, the energy, as the separation of and as substance and existence, the energy essentially returned to substance, to its source and origin. We'll in the next post continue with the moment of competition between the atom and male and even female singularities for the space of substance between them. Go into more detail regarding the molecules into infinity manifesting themselves into a point of consuming themselves as energy, and within this, why and how energy returned to substance. I commit myself to show how and why individual human beings pursuing relationships are simply in the pursuit of their own positive energy experience, empowerment, and fulfillment of energy within and as their own minds of and as energy. That we are in no way pursuing relationships for the unconditional support and assistance of another individual human being as self, of getting to know them in equality and oneness, of harnessing relationships to in fact expand, grow, and develop as an individual and together. But the starting point of relationships within us existing as the mind is simply the pursuit of fulfilling and empowering our minds with energy, where the connection and relationships as it formed from the beginning with the singularities, equally as one, now exist between human beings that connect and form relationships for that ultimate positive energy experience that one have manifest within and during sex as the ultimate and optimum point of positive energy experience that the mind of energy can manifest for itself. Within this, I commit myself to show that any and all relationships formed towards anything and anyone within and as experience of and as energy as the mind is formed within the incentive of getting and having possessing the positive energy experience, fulfillment and empowerment of and as energy for and as the mind. And this goes for both the good, the positive, and bad and negative relationship connections. Because even in the negative and bad relationships, the mind and human being exist in a sense of empowerment and fulfillment, in validating the nature of and as the negative and bad relationships and connections. And so, with the good and positive relationships and connections that give the human being and mind the empowerment and fulfillment of energy as experienced within themselves. In this, I commit myself to show that as energy, as the mind, we use both the positive and the negative energy experiences within ourselves, in our relationships and connections, to and towards others, within our world and reality, to empower and fulfill ourselves with energy as the mind within ourselves. And that whether a relationship is positive or negative, within and behind that relationship connection exists the self-interest of energy to serve only its own experience and accumulation of energy. I commit myself to show how and why, throughout the history of the human race, with us accepting and allowing energy authority to determine, influence, and control our relationships and connections based on energy, has caused the extent of the divide and separation within and between humanity, that no two human beings can in fact exist in and as absolute equality and oneness unconditionally, consideration and regard, unconditionality, consideration and regard. Because whenever placed within a situation, the individual will serve only their own self-interest and survival as energy. Because if relationships were in fact a real, absolute commitment from the start, no excuse, justification, validation would exist to dismiss each other. It would be an absolute decision made from the beginning, taking all things into consideration, assessing compatibility, and then make an informed, practical decision to stand and walk together. But none of this exists within energy, as energy only wants its experience. And so the forming and connections of relationships manifest within the statement, do and experience now, ask questions later. Not seeing, realizing, and understanding that in approaching relationships from energy, with energy not in any way taking reality into consideration, when the energy in the mind of the relationships diminish and lessen, the more and more the beings attempt and try to come closer and closer together as energy equals, the more and more the energy diminish and lessen until they're faced with the reality of themselves as the mind and the physical, and then justify, validate, and excuse dismissing each other, instead of realizing that they were in an illusion of experience as energy from the beginning. And now that they faced the reality of themselves and each other without the positive energy experience, the relationship ends, because the relationship was about energy and not who the beings really in fact are within themselves and together. I commit myself to show how and why the relationship and agreement course of the destiny I process is the process that will assist and support self to firstly develop an equal and one relationship and agreement with self, to ensure that self do not approach a prospective partner and current partner in energy, creating an illusion of reality existing in a relationship with self and or another only for energy, but that one aligns self with self and or one's partner, individual or together, to walk self and together with taking into consideration the reality of self and each other, to walk in relationship and agreement, not just for energy, but to in fact align self and or one's partner and together, to establish a practical starting point commitment, how to practically communicate, how to practically live together, how to practically establish a decision and commitment between each other with self, to walk a process where self and one's partner and together stand together for and as life, taking responsibility for self and another as self, in and as equality, in and as actual equality and oneness, to prepare self alone and or with one's partner to eventually stand as living examples and taking responsibility for the world as self, for which we're already preparing at Destiny as the equal money system for world responsibility, equality, and oneness.